Okay, so today we're going to be talking about the structure and the history of the atom. And the first main idea was Dalton's first modern atomic theory of matter, which talked about how if you cut a substance up enough, there would reach a point where you cannot cut it up anymore, and he called those particles atoms. Now, another main idea discussed in his atomic theory is that atoms of the same element are identical, which means that they share the same characteristics, such as helium has the same radius as most other helium elements together, and they share the same general properties of bonding, mainly because they have the same amount of protons. And comparing helium to hydrogen, they don't have the same amount of protons. They have totally different characteristics. Now, the next main experiment in the development of the atomic model was Thomson's cathode ray tube experiment, where it discovered the electron. And the first part is a battery attached to a cathode and the anode, and that releases the cathode shoots out particles, and it was unknown at the time like what was included in the particles, but they were like atoms that were being shot out. And when you attach a magnet, a positive and negative magnets on the other side, after the anode, you can see that the stream of particles bent towards the positive end, which means that if the laws of magnetism are true, which is that if it's positive, it if it's negatives attract and positives go against each other, then that is why, and it determined that there is a negative substance in the atom that is making it turn. Now, following his experiment, Thomson created the Plum pudding model, which showed electrons, or the yellowish balls with negative signs on them to represent that they have a negative charge, are within a sphere cloud of positive charge. The next major experiment in the development of the atomic model was Rutherford, who did the gold foil experiment, where he shot alpha particles at a very, very thin gold foil, and what he thought was going to happen based on the previous models was that it's solid, atoms are solid, and they would just bounce back. But what he determined was that atoms are actually pretty empty, and there's only a solid kind of pit in the middle, and that he called that the nucleus. Now, following his experiment, he created the Rutherford's atomic model, and it showed the pit or nucleus with a positive charge in the center, and then it got orbited by negatively charged electrons. Finally, the more modern theory and the current model of the atom is that there are positive protons in the center, with uncharged, with particles with no charge, neutrons, collecting together to form the nucleus, and then you have electrons orbiting around them in an electron cloud. And you can't totally determine where they are, but rather just their kind of relative probability of where they're going to be. And we'll discuss that in later things when you get to more like electron energy levels and stuff with of that nature. Okay, so next time I will be discussing some basic concepts of the periodic table and how to read some stuff on the periodic table.